Good evening and welcome to the August 14th Traffic and Pedestrian Safety Committee meeting. I'd like to call to order and pledge allegiance. Chair Dunham Sims, would you like to begin with the call of order? Okay. Please stand and let us begin with the Pledge of Allegiance. Excuse me. Next, we're going to begin with the roll call. Member Oliver Collins.
Present.
Member Ben Doyle.
Here.
Chair Faith Dunham Sims.
Present.
Vice Chair Kent Moriarty.
I'm here.
Member Crystal Pasco. And presiding over the meeting today is myself, KJ, and I do have Mia here helping with phone calls or public comments. Next, we'd like to discuss the approval of minutes for July 10th. Do we have any comments regarding the minutes? Okay. Would anyone like to make a motion for approval?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Second? Crystal Pasco? Roll call through. Yes. Member Ben Doyle?
Abstain.
Chair Faith Dunham Sims?
Abstain.
Kent Moriarty?
Approve.
And did I just say Oliver Collins?
Aye.
Okay. Thank you. Motion passes. We'll move on to the next item. Committee member reports and communications. Does anyone in the committee have any reports to bring up?
Yes, thank you. I just want to remind everybody out there schools are opening up next week, I think, for most Pinole schools, and want to remind everybody to drive safe and have a good time and bring your smile and your patience. Thank you.
I also have an announcement to just kind of piggyback off of that. Just two quick ones. 511 Contra Costa is a great resource for transportation, and they're currently offering really great incentives for carpooling and taking public transit to and from schools, including a pass to class, which is 2 months of free rides on AC Transit, County Connection, Tri-Delta Transit, and WestCat. It's available for students in grades 1 through 12 while supplies last. And there's also really great resources to what the previous speaker mentioned on back to school traffic and pedestrian safety tips. More information is on 501contracosta.org. And I also wanted to make a quick announcement on things that are happening on the regional level. So MTC, the Metropolitan Transportation Commission, is seeking input via an online survey about Plan Bay Area 2050, which is the Bay Area's long-range regional plan. The draft blueprint, which is essentially their first draft of that plan, outlines various strategies for creating a more affordable, connected, diverse, healthy, and vibrant Bay Area for all by 2050. And the survey is currently seeking input also on the draft Transit 2050 network, which outlines how to make specifically Bay Area public transit faster and more frequent, and really just connecting more communities by bus, train, and ferry. The input will help shape policies and investments for the future of Bay Area transportation, housing, the economy, and the environment. The deadline to participate in the survey is September 9th, and it's available in different languages and different formats. And MTC is also hosting a series of pop-up workshops throughout the Bay Area. And more information can be found at planbayarea.org. I just wanted to share that as I think it's important to stay informed on efforts happening outside of our city that definitely impact our city. So, thanks.
Thank you for sharing. And then I'd like to ask any of the committee members for any requests for future agenda items. So we did move this up a little bit further up on the agenda.
This is, I'll just reiterate the active transportation plan. I think if it never is discussed in this meeting, we had one in-person event that had no remote access. A few people went to it. If we don't discuss it here, what will happen is it will go to council, they'll discuss it, maybe approve it, and then it will just kind of be forgotten. And I think the city's spending a lot of money on a consultant to put together a good active transportation plan. I hope it is impactful in the city. And I think we're not doing it justice if we're not discussing it. If there's not, I think the pop-up events were great, and there was lots of community input, but it's going to be really easy for it to just kind of be forgotten about. And this is the venue where that kind of thing should be discussed. And so I'm asking that we put it on the agenda to take whatever form the draft is in. I imagine it's probably advanced a little bit from what it was at the in-person meeting. And just not to make any decisions, just to have maybe a PowerPoint presentations of some of the, just a few slides showing some significant parts of it, and just discuss it, just so that when it goes to council, it's something that people are thinking about. And so that's a long request, but that's what I'd like to see in the future. And we don't have an idea of when it will go to council, do we?
At this time, no. Right now, what was presented last month was a rough draft. So committee members like yourselves can still comment on that draft that was provided via email.
Okay.
Next item, please.
That's a good question. We don't need to vote on, does this group need to vote on whether or not we put items on the agenda, or can staff say, yep, we'll put it on the agenda? What's the?
I mean, this tabs, the ATP item is already a part of the agenda. So it's already there as a standing item, right? Yeah. So it will eventually come to this committee, discussion and recommendation to the council.
I think the concern was to bring it to the committee before its final draft.
Yes, I mean, the final draft is being prepared right now. Because of the workshop, it was not brought to this tabs here, but it will be brought to the tabs meeting before it goes to council. So you will see the final draft.
Okay, and it will be, we won't be just voting yes or no on the draft. There will be some presentation that the public can see what we're.
Yeah. I mean, there will be a brief presentation saying what is included in the draft, and the committee members can discuss, and any final comments they want to add, that would be fine, and you can recommend it to go to the council.
That sounds great.
Okay.
So I think the proposed agenda item would be that we have a presentation of the draft active transportation plan presented to this committee for committee and public comment prior to, well, ideally next month, prior to final draft, yeah?
Yeah, most likely that would be fine. I believe we have a standing agenda item for the ATP, and my thought was to actually bring it under that item.
Okay. So for item 5, citizens to be heard, these are for items not on the agenda. Please limit your comments to 3 minutes. Do we have any callers?
We have one caller from a 510 number. Please identify yourself for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes,
Hello?
we can hear you.
Yes, my name is Anthony, and I'm a longtime resident of Pinole, homeowner, taxpayer, senior citizen. I'd like to address a few things that I know were brought up in some past meetings, but it doesn't seem like much has been done on any of them. The traffic and pedestrian signages that they put up on several blocks and street corners and medium strips up and down San Pablo Avenue a few months ago. I thought they were going to expend or do the same with another busy corridor like Pinole Valley Road. And a lot of those, a few of those were new, and a few of those were from Detroit. Road. I don't think road and the other one where you were destroyed there, but it's like policy unwritten, broken, broken, no, not for you know, like 3 years, etc., etc. And the same thing with street light bridges. What does the sign Avenue done by Plaza on the front right roll that off. There's another one up the road as well. It's dangerous on the main circle.
Unfortunately, your time was up, and unfortunately, your call was a little choppy, but we'd like to gather your, make sure you're able to send us your comments. If you could email us at publicworks@pinole.gov, just please send us an email regarding what you were calling about today, and we'll review your comments. Thanks. We have
Next slide, please. Thank you. So we're going to be talking about traffic and pedestrian safety issues. We wanted to include the traffic calming policy because we did just recently change our website. So We do have this online and available to the public, and we just want to note that when we do receive complaints regarding any traffic or pedestrian safety issues, we are going to try and implement the following steps before we move further into the process. Okay. Next slide, please. Item 6B, these were some items that were submitted by citizens of our community. And the first one was for pedestrian safety at San Pablo Avenue and Meadow Avenue. And I just want to note we're currently on step 2 and 3 for this process. Step 2 being that we do have staff going out to the site and evaluating the situation there. And then we have also asked law enforcement for support for enforcing the red zone that's currently there. I believe PD did go out recently and has enforced that red zone to make the intersection more visible for cars coming out of Meadow Avenue. So if those vehicles are still continuing to do that, please feel free to contact Public Works or the police department so we can continue our enforcement of that area. Okay. The next submitted.
Can I make a couple of comments? One is, I guess we should, you'll notice this in your visit to the site, but there's the 33-unit affordable housing, Saha housing, which is 100 feet from that intersection. So clearly we want people moving into any kind of housing to have the option to walk instead of having to drive everywhere. Just wanted to. When I first looked at that, I thought, well, of course there should be a crosswalk there so that people walking along that side of the street should be able to walk safely. Oliver had pointed out that, but all of the intersections, well, you could say it yourself, Oliver. I won't put words in your mouth.
Thank you. I think that there's quite a few intersections down San Pablo Ave that have this configuration. There's a ladder-style crosswalk across San Pablo Avenue, but the feeder streets are not crosswalk delineated. And I think if we're going to, moving forward, it should be part of our conditions of approval to have a developer install crosswalks on feeder streets like this. But if the city or the committee recommends to the city to install a crosswalk here, I would suggest that it kind of go beyond this and look at the other streets down San Pablo Avenue that have this similar configuration. But to Member Moriarty's point, there is a new construction building nearing completion there for 100 units, and I think it might be appropriate to put something in there at this location in particular. Thank you.
I wanted to, I guess, ask one other thing. This is veering off a little bit away from this specific situation, but it made me think of something. The person that wrote that letter was talking about the lack of visibility at the crosswalk, and you just mentioned that the city increased the red zone so that there's less, so that the car parking is farther away from the crosswalk, which is great. But I had a question, not exactly about this, but about the California daylighting law, where there's a buffer of 20 feet ahead of the crosswalk where cars aren't to park, even if it's not marked. And I guess this is something that not a lot of people know about, and from what my understanding is that cities will issue, it's enforced, even though it's, not enforced. It's not allowed to park in that buffer zone, even if it's not painted red. And my understanding is that cities are issuing warnings, but not citations for this year, and that citations might be issued in the future. I just don't want to, I wonder what the awareness is in Pinole of that, in what the police department is the police department issuing warnings, or is there anything going on in that area currently?
Are you asking about if we're issuing citations in that particular area that's on the screen?
No. If there's, and not citations, I said it wrong. Is this police department issuing any warnings when people violate that 20-foot buffer daylighting area?
I would imagine so. I'm actually looking that up because I personally am not out there actively enforcing that, right? So as a traffic officer, I'm trying to enforce moving violations because those are the most dangerous, people running stop signs, speeding, blowing through red lights, things like that. I certainly enforce and write parking tickets for red zones. So that area that's particularly in that square there, like KJ mentioned earlier, is a red zone, and I had cited several vehicles in that red zone. But as far as a buffer area of 20 feet before or after the limit line, is that?
I think it's just before. Does somebody know better what the California daylighting law is?
I think it has to do with the prolongation of the curb and not necessarily the limit line. And it's a little bit vague for me to understand, so it might take a little bit of research, and maybe they can get back to us on what they find.
Okay.
Yeah, I believe it is 20 foot in either direction from the corners for the visibility sake. It doesn't have to be the limit line. Limit line sometimes can be different, can be way back to accommodate a crosswalk or something. So the law says 20 feet, and it is the city's responsibility to actually go ahead and put the red marking there to be enforceable. So it will, and we do have that 1 year period of warning.
Okay. But it will be enforceable even without the red painted, correct? That's what I understand.
Enforceable meaning you have to issue the warning. You won't be able to cite them. So.
Okay.
I'm just gonna open up a whole kettle of fish because it's what I like to do. I think that the whole point of, red curb and visibility is really kind of a moot point, because what we have here is a really dangerous situation of an uncontrolled crossing going across 5 lanes of traffic. We have 2 travel lanes in both directions and left turn lane. So regardless of cars, encroaching on that red curb or not, we have just a horribly unsafe crossing, because the speed limit through there is supposed to be 40, and how many people do 40? It's probably more like 45, 50 and upwards depending on the time of day. So, whether there's a car parked in that red curb or not, we still have all of that traffic, and it's like playing Frogger for the pedestrian to try to get across the street. And we all know what happens when one person sees the pedestrian, they slow down, the guy behind him doesn't see it, and they cut around to the other lane, and then the pedestrian gets hit. So I would just like to say, maybe, we need to look at the bigger picture here and talk about a pedestrian activated signal at this crossing. And there are many uncontrolled crossings like this along San Pablo Avenue, and I would say they're all equally as dangerous because they're uncontrolled, going over so many different, lanes of traffic. So I've said my piece, something to think about.
I'd like to add that, for those that don't know, Frogger is a good game. And I think that one of the things we're driving towards here is that when we have a large new development with the potential for a large number of new pedestrians using a section of street and sidewalk, that this committee sounds like they want to recommend to the council that we impose upon developers above a certain size to conduct a review and make necessary improvements to crosswalks and sidewalks as needed.
Okay, yeah, I mean, the planning commission do look at all these details, And during the development phase also, city also reviews their traffic study. And we do have some recommendations during the development phase, but I don't know about whether when this was approved, I can't remember whether it was before my time or what. I have to verify whether there was any recommendation for a controlled crossing on San Pablo. So, but then we would have all the records in the planning commission details.
Do we have any additional comments? No? Okay. So we also did receive another citizen, I guess recommendation is to install stop markings and crosswalks along Ramona, specifically between Lucas Avenue and Santa Barbara Drive. They also did want to request a speed enforcement in the area due to large lane widths on that segment of roadway. So currently we're in policy step 2 and 3. City is evaluating the area to address those, as well as educational outreach for the community. So soon we'll be posting on social media as well as on the Pulse basic driving skills of how to stop at stop signs, how to yield to pedestrians, as well as slowing down in residential areas. And those will be coming soon to our social media accounts. Okay. Do we have any questions regarding Ramona Drive? No comments.
We have a comment. We have a comment. Please identify yourself for the record, and please keep your comments to 3 minutes. Thank you.
Hi, this is Ellen. Can you hear me?
Yes, we hear you.
Hi, great. I submitted this request. My primary concern and that of my neighbors is the speed of the drivers on Ramona Street. The request for crosswalks was secondary to that, just for pedestrian safety. With regularity, vehicles come down Ramona Street. It's cars, trucks, delivery trucks, motorcycles, all vehicles. And I would guess that 50% of them at least are going over the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit. And there are people, this is a residential area, and there are people walking, running, biking, lots of dog walkers and kids playing in their front yards. And it's a real concern, has been, I've been here for 4 years, it's been a concern for that long. I've spoken with my neighbors, every one of them is on board 100% with a traffic study, and I've gotten all of 12 of them to sign on to the request. And I'm sure if I went down the street further, I'd get even more people who would be on board with this. It's going to be a dangerous situation. I'd be surprised if there haven't been any accidents or incidents to this point. So we would appreciate anything you can do to take a look at this speeding, to go through with that traffic study and then come back to us with some options to try to get that under control. And thank you for your attention to this. We appreciate that.
Thank you. There's no additional oh, no. We have one caller from a 510 number. Again, please identify yourself for the record and keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes, with regard to the traffic calming presentation that I tuned in a little late, so I didn't get the police officer's name or position there on behalf of the police department. I think, you know, rather than putting a study together or this and that, they need to put a bigger Band-Aid on what's going on in our city. And they have to be more proactive with regard to enforcing the laws, you know? And I think one of the chairpersons already said that, you know, what is the definition of how someone gets a citation, or why is some officers give citations and others give different kinds of warnings? There seems to be like a conflict of priorities or interests there with the police department. You know, if you look at the police blotter, you see people, speeders and so on, and maybe they're red light runners, or maybe they've done certain things, but it just says police stop. You know, it doesn't say that they were speeding, or they ran the red light, or they almost ran somebody over in the crosswalk. But these numerous different types of warnings have to stop, you know, and I know the city can use the money because they're over $1 million a year in a deficit budget hole, and they're raising our taxes. But we need to have more citations out there to have consequences for these speeders, red traffic sign runners, and so on. Also, there's numerous signages up and down different streets in Pinole Valley Road that are obstructed by trees and bushes and branches. There are too many to name because the city and the Public Works Department doesn't go through there on a quarterly basis or whatever it is, if anything, and trim back the bushes or give an abatement notice to the property owner. There's several in my neighborhood and several I know up on Pinole Valley Road where the signs are obstructed. But I think they need to get tougher with these lawbreakers, because it's like the Indianapolis Speedway out there on San Pablo Avenue, morning, day, and night, and Pinole Valley Road, where the speed limits is 25, 35, and maybe 40 or 45, but they're all going over 45, 50, and 60, a lot of them. And I don't see many citations being issued on the police blotter or stops throughout our travels in the city, whether it's a warning or a ticket. And I think whether it's the old police department or the new police chief, they need to put the pedal to the metal.
Thank you. There are no more comments.
Could I make a comment on the previous caller's question? We showed earlier the traffic abatement plan, and it showed the steps 1 through 6. Through more?
The traffic calming?
Calming, yeah. What, you know, it sounds like this citizen is actively engaged in gathering signatures from their neighbors. And what step are they at? And could we, through 11, yeah. What could we briefly summarize what their next step is if they want to continue to be engaged and pursue the next steps?
Yeah, I can go ahead and explain that. So the first step is the initial complaint. That's when a resident comes into our office or sends us an email regarding some type of traffic condition issue. The next step in this case for Ramona is a visual check of if there's signs that need to be refreshed, if we do need to put stop signs, or if there's vegetation issues. We'll go through our site review to make those recommendations to the city engineer. If it is just that we need increased enforcement, that would be step 3. we would contact Officer Eubanks to go out to the site to verify if there is a high amount of speeders. I'm sure she'll provide citations to those violators. And this particular homeowner, she's already ahead of the game. She's already at step 6. So she already did her 60% or so for the block that she wants to impact with any type of engineering devices to slow down traffic, whether it's speed bumps or maybe other devices that can slow down traffic. And then we would have to evaluate whether or not those things can be implemented. And that's when we'd also bring it to TAPS for your recommendations as well, to have your suggestions. And if you agree with a recommendation our city engineer would like to put forth, then we can carry that project over to council for their approval.
Thank you very much. Yeah, I feel like we should do everything we can to take just a little, even though the information's available, but a little bit extra time to promote and support people that are out there doing the legwork for our city, and so thank you for that. That helps.
I had a question about number 4, since we're talking about this, the traffic committee meeting. So one possibility is that TAPS meets with the community. I think that's what that 4 is. If so, how would that happen if the neighborhood requested that, or what would trigger that, make that happen or not?
Correct. So when the resident does contact us and our outreach or enforcement is not enough, the residents in the area can meet with a TAPS committee member to discuss what those issues are, so that you can come to the TAPS committee to provide your reports. And then we'll evaluate from there what needs to happen.
It sounds like the neighbors meet with the whole TAPS committee. It's not talking about a visit of TAPS to the site, is it? Or I guess it could go either way. It doesn't say it is, or it doesn't say it isn't.
Yeah, I mean, it is TAPS committee members' wish. If they want to visit the site, it is their wish. But this is the forum. They send us an email, and we provided those details to the TAPS committee. TAPS committee discusses here, and if the TAPS committee feels a site visit would be helpful, it is it's up to you to go and engage further. So
We have one more caller. Please identify yourself for the record and keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Hi, this is Christina. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. I'm so sorry to keep everybody over so long. I was the person who submitted the San Pablo and Meadow call out. And so I just wanted to ask what the next steps are for that situation. Is it everything that you just said for the Ramona, or is it slightly different given, the environment's different and everything that we heard today? Like, it's a horribly unsafe, crossing, the feeder street issue, like it's very acknowledged already. And so just wondering if there's anything that I can do to help push this forward to next steps, or, just stay tuned kind of situation. Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you for your comment. So it would be very similar to the Ramona case, in which you've submitted your complaint. Our staff will go out and take a look at the area. We've already sent traffic enforcement to enforce the red zone, so we're hoping that has helped alleviate some of the issues. If you're continuing to have additional or if you have any additional complaints, or the neighborhood has additional complaints, we can move on to the next step, which would be step number 4 or step number 5. And if we do need to move on to step 6, requiring a 60% petition signed of the neighborhood or this specific area, we would go on to that step, and we communicate with the residents of what their next course should be.
Yeah, also the issue what was being brought forward for this particular location, as there may be a bigger issue for crosswalk across San Pablo, that city will evaluate, going further towards when we're analyzing other projects on San Pablo or grant funded projects. So we'll evaluate those and assist in providing further safe crosswalks around there. So, but those things will take a little time. I believe the local road safety plan may have some recommendations with respect to that. And once we complete our active transportation plan, that will also have some recommendation.
Okay, got it. So for the neighbor situation, I mean, what's 60% of that? Do I need to actively go out and get that? Or is that something that the city sends out like a survey for and collects it versus me going door to door?
Yeah, it will be the neighbors' efforts. So one of you neighbors have to go door to door and collect those. If there is a need for a speed hump and any other traffic calming issues, but I don't think you need to do anything for the crosswalk on San Pablo. That would be an effort by city.
So the feeder street is what would need neighborhood signage.
That's correct.
Versus the existing, the big thing across San Pablo, that's going to be part of the plan that you just described.
That's correct.
Okay, great. Thank you all so much for your attention to this. Appreciate it very much.
Before we move on to that, just a quick request. I'd mentioned that California daylighting law, and I was thinking that's pretty significant as far as pedestrian safety, and yet I demonstrated my lack of clear understanding of it, and there's clearly a lack of awareness of it. I wondered if staff could take a couple minutes at the next meeting just to say, here's what it is, just so that it's something that the community is aware of and that we understand with more clarity.
Yeah, we can talk about that. And that, with that being said too, Member Moriarty, we can also send out outreach to the city of Pinole through the polls so that they're well aware of the daylighting law. Next slide, please. So next, we're going to discuss the list of traffic issues discussed and their status. For this section, there's no new updates. Next slide, please. No new updates for 5 through 8.
Just go back there. Maybe just one update I want to do for the faded striping all over the city. We are actually preparing to complete some of the faded striping on Pinole Valley Road from Tennant and as well as towards from Seamus until the county. And that's most likely if all our planning falls in place, we are going to be striping those, refreshing those stripings coming week, Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday. And those will be afternoon, like 5 to 9 p.m. work by staff and with help of PD. So we're just setting that up right now.
Next slide, please. No new updates for 9 through 13. Next slide, please. There's one new update for item number 16. The markings have been refreshed at Deutsch and Victor, so there's more visibility, not just through the signs, but also on the pavement. Okay. Next slide, please. Item 6C, list of traffic issues discussed. There's no new updates for number 18. This slide here, we just wanted to show you the photos of some of the items that were completed 2 months ago. One was the installation of the stop sign on Wright Avenue and Carroll Street. They do have a new LED flashing stop sign at that intersection, and all the stop signs have been refreshed. One thing that's not captured in this photo is something that you commented on, Member Moriarty, is the daylighting law. So there have been some red curbs have been installed here, and the city is also looking into additional red curbs at this intersection. Item number 9, the trip hazards at the Creekside Pedestrian Bridge. This is located at the Pinole Valley Shopping Center, between the shopping center and Sarah Court. The bridge has been recently resurfaced to have a smoother surface for pedestrians. Next item, please. These are some items for issues related to Caltrans. I just do want to note to the public that any issues that you find near the on and off ramps or on the freeway should be directed to Caltrans, and I have their website listed on the slide. And do we have any comments? Next slide, please. Staff updates. The Police Department Officer Eubanks will present any updates.
We have no new updates at this moment, but we are actively, just to kind of piggyback off of some comments that were made, we are actively enforcing the rules of the road out on Pinole Valley Road. As far as speed goes, stop sign violations and so forth. And to kind of just, again, to address a concern of one of our citizens was that we aren't citing enough and that we are giving warnings more than we're citing. I can't speak for that, as I cite almost every person I stop. I know that as an officer, we have discretion in the law, and so I just want to have our citizens be aware that an officer has discretion when they make a stop. Okay, so we have the ability to give a warning. I like to go over the 3 E's. There's enforcement, there's education, right, and then there's taking the action and actually citing them. So I think that there's maybe a little misconception that we aren't citing enough, but I can certainly say that we are doing that. But we don't have any new updates as of right now. I am compiling, hoping that by next TAPS meeting, I have a more concise list of some hot spots for collisions in our city. So I'll be able to provide a list of areas where we have seen collisions happen more often than not.
Thank you. Next slide, please. So for CIP projects, currently we do not have any new items to report. Development projects, this one is still in the works, is the Pinole Shores Phase 2 redesign. You may visit information on this project on the development page, linked in the slide. Next slide, please. Active transportation plan. We still do have the website up, which is the Walk and Roll Pinole, and we will be providing TAPS with the summary from Thursday's workshop.
So, okay, as the committee members attended the workshop during the at Senior Center, which was held as an open forum for people to just come out and gather and discuss. So attendance was not, don't say that it was great, but there was at least about 25 to 30 people who attended the workshop and provided comments. Some attendees gathered around and actually discussed some of the questions with the consultant. The consultant, Colin, provided some of the responses to their concerns, and some of the concerns which were provided to our consultant regarding those various sketches of all the locations, and the street names were very short, and the segments were very tight, and those would be corrected, and those were actually prepared only for purpose of demonstration, but the entire streets and all those would be corrected in the final draft that will come to TAPS. I believe the discussion with all those 10 or 11 people who stayed to discuss a little more was helpful, and some of those discussions points also will be part of this ATP ATP plan. And as I just mentioned previously, we are preparing, the consultant is actually preparing to add a citywide bike and pedestrian plan, which was not shown or added to the draft before. So once they complete those maps to be part of this draft, we'll bring it to as a final draft to the TAPS. And we were expecting that draft to be ready sometime next week, and so most likely you will see it next TAPS meeting. So that's the brief update I have for the workshop and the TAPS progress, and I'm happy to take any other questions or comments from the committee or public. Thank you.
There's no public comment.
Next slide, please. Grant updates. Right now, we're still working with Contra Costa County for the Safe Streets and Roads for All for the Pinole Valley Road project. And just a reminder, the Pinole Valley Road project is from CMIS to the city limits. Okay, next.
Yes, I forgot to actually add one more grant. We are also working with Contra Costa County for a Bay Trail gap closure project, which the Contra Costa County is looking at some of the, I had the meeting just today, so that's why you don't see it here. And so we are trying to be partner with the county to see along San Pablo Avenue to continue the Bay Trails bike and at least pedestrian access, and they're working on some of the concept plans, and we may participate with them for that grant. I'll provide any further update. If we are going to submit something, then I'll provide further update in the next steps.
Next slide, please. So this is the contact information. Please note that our emails did change. The domain now is @pinole.gov. So just be sure to email your committee members or Public Works for any comments or questions regarding traffic and pedestrian safety. Next slide, please. So this adjourns the meeting. Will conclude on September 11th, 2024. That's it.
We'll adjourn the meeting. Thank you, everyone, for attending and for your comments.